This podcast contains content some people may find distressing. Listeners' discretion is advised.
So when I was 8 years old, I asked my grandma how I could transform into a mermaid. And she told me, Nora, if you want to be a mermaid, you're going to have to pray. And if you pray hard enough, one day you will be a mermaid.
Oh, wow.
It's 23. It hasn't happened for me yet.
Not yet. Are you not praying hard enough?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. It might be the fact that mermaids don't exist.
That could also... You know what?
But I'm not sure.
That is a very legit reason.
Yeah.
But how are you trying to be a mermaid in your everyday life? Because when you have a goal, Nora...
Yes. I used to go to school and pretend that I couldn't touch water. And then when someone seen me touch water, I'd literally run to the bathroom and pretend that I was like transforming into a mermaid.
A bit like that show, the Aussie show that you were mentioning.
H2O, just add water. My favorite show of all time. It's so good. I still watch it to this day. It's my comfort show. So whenever I'm sad, I put it on. And I incorporate it into my daily life too. So whenever I meditate, I close my eyes and that's where I go. I go to Mako Island. It's a vibe.
Well, I gave you an idea earlier, didn't I? We can get you a prosthetic fin.
Yes.
And I think that's very possible because if humans can go to the moon, they can make Nora a prosthetic fin. Yes. And it could be like a prosthetic leg, but much smoother and elegant and a bit scaly, just like the show that you're referring to. You could also have like electronic things that also move. Can you imagine going, you're going with...
Any scientists watching this, please make me a very realistic prosthetic mermaid fin. I will be eternally grateful. You could make my dreams come true.
Well, baby steps. You know when you're setting goals, yes. Sometimes you got to break the goals down.
Of course.
So you can eventually get there. I believe in you.
Thank you very much.
Believe in you enough to drive down to Brighton for this.
Yeah.
To help you become a mermaid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the best. See, they are coming true in a different way than I thought, but here we are.
And on that note, everybody, welcome to this podcast. I'm with Nora.
Hello.
Nora's discoveries, Nora's Wild Wednesday stories. We're going to get a bit crazy today.
We are. We really are.
We're telling how many stories?
We're telling
5 stories, right?
5, yes. So this is actually one of your favorite ones. It's about the Erickson twins, so Sabina and Ursula.
Yes, the Swedish girls.
Yes. And this story...
Can I just say, this is how I discovered Nora.
It is.
I was going through my TikTok and the FYP page, is it?
Yeah.
I just saw this girl talking about these twins and it was Nora. And then I discovered her account and I saw more crazy stories.
Yeah.
And I was hooked.
Yes, thank you.
So then I sent a message like a lot of these things start and I was like, would you like to bring these stories onto the podcast? And you said yes.
Yes.
I love that. And now we're here.
We are indeed.
Right, Nora? Start us off with Sabina and Ursula.
Yes. So Sabina and Ursula, like you said, were born in Sweden. And they grew up with their siblings. So they had an older brother called Björg and an older sister called Mona. And at the time of this incident, Sabina was living with her partner in Ireland and her 2 kids. And Ursula decided that she wanted to visit her in May of 2008.
Ursula was living in America, wasn't she?
Yeah. So she decided to go and visit. No, Sabina was living in Ireland.
No, sorry, Ursula was.
Yeah.
Ursula came from America, correct?
Yeah. And so during this trip, literally at the crack of dawn, they get up and they take a ferry from Ireland to Liverpool in the UK. And again, they don't tell anyone this. They don't say what is going on. They literally just up and leave at the crack of dawn. So they get to Liverpool. You know, they go to the St. Anne police station. And Sabina tells the cops that basically her partner has been abusing her and she's scared for her kids.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. And so what they do is the police in Liverpool contact the police in Ireland and they're like, go do a welfare check on the kids and the partner and see what's going on. So they do just that and they find that nothing is wrong. Now, I'm obviously not saying that there was no abuse happening or anything like that, but they were like, from the get, there was nothing wrong there.
As in the father must have acted normal enough and
yeah.
no one had reported anything. But obviously it had triggered Sabina in a way where she was ready to leave home with her sister.
Yeah, exactly that.
Because I think some things were either something happened the day before they ran away.
Yeah.
Or something was reported. Yeah. But I think something happened personally, which Sabina just wanted to get away from.
Probably. That would make a lot of sense. They left Liverpool. They got on a coach, and this coach was taking them to London, right? And while they were on this coach, they were acting so bizarrely. They had these big bags. You know how, like, when you go on a coach, you just put your bags, like, in the underside compartment of things, and you put it there, you forget about it, you sit down, and you pick it up when you reach. They did not do that. They had these big, gigantic bags literally on their laps. They were clutching, like, literally clutching onto the bags for dear life. And everyone on the bus was acting super, like, everyone was like, they're acting weird. They're acting suspicious. This is odd behavior. So the bus driver notices this, and he makes an unscheduled stop in a service station. And they never do this. Like, they never do unscheduled stops.
Were they concerned about Sabina and Ursula?
Sorry?
Was the bus driver concerned about Sabina and Ursula?
Because he was like, why are you clutching your bags like that? You know, like, leave
Tell
them.
us what's inside it.
Yeah. And he was like, so they stop. He gets out. He tells them, either show me what's in your bag, or if you don't show me what's in your bag, get off the bus. And they're like, absolutely not. We're not showing you what's inside our bags. They wouldn't let him see the bags, touch the bags, go anywhere near the bags. They get off, and they're kind of like on the back side of the service station, right? There's CCTV footage of this, of them getting off the service station, in the service station.
The manager there calls the police.
Yes, because she's at this point, she's scared that there's a bomb in the bag. She's like, there has to be a bomb in this bag, because why would you act this suspicious if there was nothing on your person? So the police come, and Sabina and Ursula are acting so normal, like normal, having conversations with the police, laughing with the police, all of the things. And the police go to the manager at the service station. They're like, you know what? There's literally nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. These girls are acting so normal. And they let them go on their merry way, right? So then they walk to the M6 motorway. And tell me why they're literally walking in the middle of the, like, there are barriers on either side, but it's still like, it's like, what's going on, right? Wow. So they're walking there, and it doesn't take them a while to walk, because someone who's viewing, like, the CCTV footage sees them walk, and they're like, there's something off about this.
There's a self and safety hazard there.
Yeah.
You cannot be in the middle of the motorway.
No.
I'm curious about how they even got into the middle. Yeah. So they must have tried to cross. Or they did cross.
I don't know how they got on there. The next thing, that's when you look at the videos of this case or any of the things, there's CCTV of them in the back of the service station. And then the next thing, it just jumps to them being on the middle. How they got on the middle of the M6 motorway, I have no idea. Why they're there, and need I stress, no one knew why they went to Liverpool. No one knows why they caught the ferry. No one knows why they even went to London to begin with. They just did all of these things that no one knows what they were doing. And let me just add that they were super close in this trip as well. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, inseparably close.
Oh, as in like two sisters that were just very close.
Yeah. So when Ursula went and visited Sabina, literally they were inseparable. So going back to the story, when they're walking in the middle of the M6, a person who's viewing the CCTV looks at the footage and he cannot believe his eyes. He's like, what is going on? So he doesn't call the police, he calls patrol officers, right? Patrol officers are on their way to see why these girls are on there and to help them get off. And while the patrol officers, they haven't even arrived, while they're coming, Sabina literally jumps into traffic.
There's video footage of this.
I don't think there's video footage of her at this minute jumping into traffic, and I'll explain why this is all caught on camera.
The first time she does it, she gets hit by the car, but not directly, right?
No, she actually gets hit by the car, directly gets hit by the car. And the car is going like 70 miles an hour. She actually gets hit by the car. Like, the car doesn't even swerve. It literally hits her.
Before the police
the police or patrol arrives or anyone arrives at the scene.
So she's already been hit by a car.
She's already, at this stage, she was hit by the car, right? And literally stands up. She gets hit by the car and she gets up like nothing happened. crosses the road to the shoulder of the motorway. And then Ursula follows suit, does the same exact thing, crosses the road, goes to the shoulder, and thankfully Ursula doesn't get hit by a car, at least not yet. And I'll explain, because Sabina is not limping. She's not, like, there is nothing visibly wrong with her. She's literally walking as if you and I are walking regularly after getting hit by a car going 70 miles an hour. She does nothing.
No matter how many times I hear this story always shocks me.
It's absolutely insane.
Wow.
It's insane. And at this stage, someone calls the cops because they're like, I just hit someone on the road. And can you imagine that person's relief as well? Like, can you imagine you're driving, God forbid, and like you hit someone and you just look in your rearview mirror and you see them literally stand up and walk and not limping, not nothing. Nothing like that.
That part's encouraging, I guess.
And I've heard stories like this. A friend of mine, he used to live in the same accommodation building as me when I was in uni. And he literally told me his brother, he gave me this hack. I think it's an important hack. He told me his brother got hit by a car. But what he did was, when he saw that the car was approaching and he couldn't do anything, he jumped on the car as if it was as it was approaching.
Like a stuntman.
To lessen the blow. And he walked off scot-free. Nothing happened to him.
Yeah, because think about it. So think about the height of a car and the average height of somebody. If you're stood on both feet, where is it hitting you? Just above your knees. Yeah. And that's going to cause impact and maybe, like, do you know what I mean? Flip you over. Yeah. But I guess if someone is like that and they're self-aware at the time to jump up, then they're hitting the bonnet. So the more round part and the less pointy part of the car. That's one way to put it.
And I'll talk about one of the twins hitting a bonnet in a second.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
Oh my God.
So the police then arrive. Yeah. And it just so happens that the police have with them a camera crew because they're recording for this TV show, Motorway Cops or something. Yes, yeah. And this is how we have all the footage.
Yes, exactly. So they go with their camera crew and everything like that. And at this stage, things have calmed down in a sense, because then you have the patrol officers and you have the police officers. So some of the patrol officers are talking to police and police are briefing them on what happened. And then some of the patrol officers are talking to Sabina and some are talking to Ursula. And you can see, again, with this footage, it's all chill. Like, everyone's chill. They literally look like they're having the most regular conversation ever.
Yeah, but in their head, they're not.
They're not. No. Literally, Ursula, who hasn't been hit by a car yet, starts running towards the highway, right? And one of the patrol officers, he could not believe his eyes, and he acted so quick and grabbed her. And when he grabbed her, she was wearing a sweater, like a cardigan. Literally, the cardigan, she kind of moves her arm in a way, makes the cardigan slip off of her, and she runs onto the highway, right? And at this time, she gets run over by a 40-ton, 18-wheeler truck that's driving at an insane speed, like 60 miles.
Roughly 56 to 60 miles per hour.
And she, again, it's all on camera.
She gets caught underneath it.
Her legs get caught underneath it.
Yeah, so many of the tires roll over her legs. Yeah. So I'm sorry, we should have put a disclaimer on this podcast. Some of the imagery or what we're describing, it can be kind of vulgar. Yes. We forgot to put that in there. But disclaimer, there are some very crazy stories on this podcast.
It's wild.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No worries at all.
We forgot because we were talking about mermaids.
Literally. The best topic in the world.
Go on, carry on.
And so she gets hit. Her legs have been trampled. And you can see...
Like mushed.
Yeah, you can see they're flat. Like absolutely flat, right? And now after she did this, seconds later, literally seconds, no one has time to react. The people who are literally there, like the patrol officers, the police officers, they're looking and they're trying to grasp what they just saw. Like, they're like, what is going on? As they're looking, trying to process this, Sabina jumps into traffic, gets hit by a car for the second time.
Right. This time very impactfully. Yes. This time directly on the windscreen. Yes. This time 70 miles per hour. Yes. In a Volkswagen Polo. Yes.
And what happens was she gets hit, right? The impact literally crashes the windscreen. Like the windscreen, if you Google pictures of this, It's not drivable. Like you can't drive it. You cannot see. And she gets flung up in the air, lands on the bonnet of the car, the roof of the car, to the point where the car dents. Like there are dents. And keep in mind, this is her second time getting hit. So how she had the energy to run again and get hit by a second car for the second time is awful. Is inconceivable.
But this time she does get knocked out for 15 minutes, right?
Yes, exactly.
So Ursula's just, wow. I mean, she's done.
No.
She's not dead. What I'm saying is she's physically done.
She's not even physically done.
Really?
No. She's laying on the floor. And you can see it again in the footage.
Her legs have been mushed.
Her legs are mushed, but her brain is fine. She's so alert that she's punching officers, spitting at officers, cursing the officers, trying to scratch on them. She's on the floor. They're trying to help her. Her legs, she's like half sitting up, screaming. Like in the video, you can see the rage. Like she was in a state of rage with the officers. You would think with the how big the truck was and how she got hit that she would be like gone, you know?
It was a massive truck. Like there is video footage of this online, guys, and you won't see everything. Like they won't allow you to see every little thing.
Yeah.
And the angles that I saw, they were shot in a way where, for example, you see Ursula get run over by the truck, but you don't see the exact point of impact on her feet because the police officer is in front and his head is kind of blocking that viewpoint.
Yeah.
But you know exactly what's happened. And then Sabina's, wow, like...
It's
Ursula's
wild.
is really bad, though.
Yeah, Ursula's was... You know, she stayed in hospital till September.
How many months would that have been?
She went to visit in May of 2008. So this must have been sometime around May. So 4 months she was in hospital at least.
And even then, that might be a quick recovery. And then
Even
she would have
then,
left
yeah.
with crutches and everything else.
It's wild. And so at this stage, while Ursula is screaming, punching cops, Sabina is knocked out for 15 minutes. So they're trying to help them, right? And she wakes up 15 minutes later and she's super calm at first. She's chill, she's calm. Again, I need to stress that there were no outwardly injuries to her. Like...
To Sabina?
Yeah. Like nothing, not even a scratch.
As if she didn't even touch that car.
Literally. And so she gets up and she's fine. She wakes up, she comes to, she's fine. Until Ursula looks at her and she says, be careful, they're going to harvest your organs.
Yeah, because they're both paranoid.
Literally. And tell me why Sabina, she gets up. She gets all the strength in the world, gets up so quick. And literally starts trying to get away from cops, okay? And the cops are trying to tell her, we're trying to help you. Like, hold on, we're trying to help you. No. And you can hear them scream, no, like, stop, like, stop. Yeah. She gets up. A cop was trying to help her, grabs her. She literally punches him in the face, square in the face, and proceeded to run on the opposite side of the highway. Now, thankfully, at this stage, people are looking at the commotion. They see that things are up.
They slowed down.
They've slowed down, right? And it's good that they've slowed down because they needed civilians' help at this stage.
Like 2-3 random people came to carry.
Literally. In total, there were 6 people. One of the officers described it as inhuman strength. And can I say, the first time that Ursula jumped into traffic and then Sabina followed and the whole Volkswagen, thing happened, the cop who was there literally reported it as a possible fatality. He thought they weren't going to make it. Like, he was like, at least, like, Sabina is not making, like, Ursula, is not making it after that, right? And to their surprise, when the cop tried to, like, restrain her, he described her as having inhuman strength. Even when they handcuffed her, it wasn't enough to keep her calm. And keep in mind, again, this is a woman.
Did they sedate her?
Yes. This is a woman who had been knocked out for 15 minutes, got hit twice. This is the second time now by a car. And she just gets up, has the energy to get up and run and punch an officer. How?
And then, here's the shocking thing. When she's taken into custody, she's let out very quickly.
We're skipping ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Go on,
but
go
no,
on.
you're
What
right.
did I miss?
You missed the fact that they had to get helicopters to take Ursula to hospital.
Oh.
And they took Sabina also to hospital. And the fact of the matter is, they tested Ursula's blood because, again, they're filming for a cop show. And you can hear the cops trying to rationalize what is going on.
Maybe
and what
they're
happened.
drunk or high or off cocaine
Exactly.
or something. But they're not.
They're not. Tox report came back clean. Ursula wasn't on any drugs. Because Ursula wasn't on any drugs, they didn't find it necessary to test Sabina for drugs.
Why? That's just strange. Why can't one of them be high?
Literally.
A lot of mistakes were made in the procedure of
So
this.
many. And the biggest one of them all is that they said that they were going to... There was footage that was leaked that was conveniently cut from the whole saga of this.
I think I know what you're referring to. Carry on.
Yeah, it was leaked months later of one of the cops saying, we're going to detain them under some article, under some law saying that they're basically a danger to themselves and others. So we're going to hold them.
With mental health issues.
Yes. So we're going to hold them. But they never ended up doing that. And it caused a devastating effect on a person's life, which I will get to.
Let's not skip too far ahead. Yeah.
So the fact that the tox report came back normal and all of that, they also checked the bags because the bags were left on the scene of, they were left on the motorway. Checked the bags. There was nothing in the bags except for a bunch of phones. And when I posted this on TikTok and I was like, there was nothing suspicious in the bags, just a bunch of phones. I had a lot of comments saying a bunch of phones is suspicious. But at the same time, I feel like police would maybe know, like if they checked through the phones and saw that there was nothing up, or maybe would have come up in, again, I'm jumping too far ahead, but in Sabina's trial, something like that. But nothing came out of the phones. There was nothing suspicious on the phones. I'm not saying that having a bunch of phones isn't suspicious.
I think it would appear that a lot of the problems that Sabina and Ursula had were in their heads rather than in anything they had or had taken.
Yes, or anything that they have done.
Yeah.
So they also found an ID for one of the twins, but not for another. So only one of them had an ID. And so obviously at this stage, Ursula is in hospital, where again, she stays
like
till
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, September.
But then Sabina is let out how quickly?
Yeah, and Sabina, before she went to the police, she was in hospital. Guess how long she was in hospital for?
I can't guess because I know the answer. I've done my prep.
She was hit by a car twice and only in the hospital for 5 hours.
That is crazy, yeah. That's what I meant when I said she was released way too quickly. Under
5 hours.
any circumstances, you're released way too quickly.
5 hours? What do you mean?
That was my drive here.
Literally. They were like, you don't have any injuries. Like, there are no injuries. She was literally completely fine to the point where she was let out 5 hours later.
I'd be testing her DNA to see why she's that strong. I'm not even exaggerating.
How?
Yeah.
How on earth is that even possible?
And it's not like she was this big, sturdy bodybuilder. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah,
there was nothing.
She was a regular woman.
She was nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So when she's let out, it gets interesting.
It does, but keep in mind they also never gave her a full psychiatric evaluation.
Again, another mistake in a procedure.
Yeah. So she goes from the hospital to the police station. They question her. And at this stage, she is so normal. She's flirting with cops. She's having conversations with cops. I'm telling you, regular person. Like, there is nothing outwardly off about her.
She was acting super paranoid. They both were acting very super paranoid.
Talking about they're going to steal your organs.
Yeah, and how quickly did Sabina settle down?
Literally.
That's a psychological question in and of itself.
Literally. It was crazy. She was flirting with them. It was wild. And so what they did was they charged her for assaulting a police officer and trespassing on the highway because it's illegal to do that, obviously.
And how long did she get for this?
1 day. She spent the night in prison. She was let out the next day.
She must have flirted well.
Literally.
I'm just
Why
saying,
else?
You assaulted somebody and you trespassed. And it's not like a regular trespass where I go into an abandoned warehouse or a private car park. This is life risking.
You're endangering other people's lives. Yeah, essentially.
And to get 1 day for that.
It's wild.
I could get more for some of the things I've said on this podcast.
Literally. It's absolutely crazy, right? It doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And another weird thing. So 2 weird things, though, happened in the police interview. One weird thing she said was, in Sweden, we believe that accidents don't happen alone.
They come in threes.
She didn't say in threes. She said they're always followed by one more. And her entire time there, after watching her sister being hit by a truck, she not once asked about her, about where she was, how she was doing, nothing. It's as if Ursula didn't even exist to her in that room.
That's just strange.
Other than that one comment that was made about accidents happen, and like one accident happens and then another one follows.
Okay, I have opinions, but proceed.
Okay. Wait, tell me what you think.
It might be easy for me to say this. I'm not in the moment. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say is that you show no concern or remorse for your sister.
Yeah.
You show some bipolar disorder of some point where one minute you're hysteric, the next you're calm and flirting.
Yeah.
You've also picked up no injuries, as if you're bloody Wolverine out here.
Literally.
And yet, the police officers felt like this was a normal enough situation to firstly not give a proper psychiatric review.
Yeah.
Or a background check.
Yeah.
Like, what makes people act like this? Normal people can do crazy things. I'm not saying that anyone who does something crazy has to be crazy. Normal people can do crazy things, but they're often led to that. So is there a check we can do? Is there someone we can find out? A parent we can talk to? A sibling, a brother?
No.
The whole process of evaluating her, taking her to hospital, and then letting her out in less than a day or 2 days is baffling
wild
to me.
No.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. It was definitely an error from their part, and I have no idea why they did this error, but it went on to affect so many people.
I can imagine.
So another thing is, when she was in that police interview, they asked her if she's ever tried to harm herself, and she said no, even though she's jumped in front of 2 cars.
Did she do that? Oh. She did that deliberately, correct?
Yeah. She was literally running towards it.
But did she think she was going to make it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing for me to throw myself in front of a car. It's another to run and expect myself to get to the other side.
I think she did it deliberately because of what goes on to happen.
Okay.
But yeah, so I would say it's deliberate in a sense, right?
Understood.
So after she's been released, I think this is in an area in the UK called Stoke-on-Trent.
Yes.
So she gets released and she's never been to this area before. She knows nothing about it. And she's standing outside the police station looking very, very confused. And there was this man, his name was Glenn, and he was walking with a friend of his called Peter, I think. Yeah, with his friend Peter. And Glenn was walking his dog. And Glenn kept looking at her because he could tell she was confused. He could tell something was off. And while they were kind of making eye contact, she was like, "Oh, that's a nice dog you got there." So Glenn walked over and he was like, "Are you okay? You look out of sorts. You look confused. What's going on?" And she was like, "Well, I'm looking for a bed and breakfast. Do you know any around?" And he's like, "I don't know any bed or breakfast." And she's like, "Well, I'm in this situation. My sister is in hospital. I don't know which hospital she's in. I really want to find her."
So now she's trying to, she is now showing remorse for Ursula, but wasn't when the police were around.
Literally.
Very strange.
It is. And so he says, "Perfect. I have a brother who works in a hospital. I can ask him to put your contact details around, or not at least your sister's name, and he can get back to me and I can help you find her." Basically, there are no bed and breakfasts, but you can come stay at my place. And
were there actually no bed and breakfasts?
I don't know, but my thing was, when I talked about the story on TikTok, some people were victim blaming Glenn, in a sense.
I'm not sure if, as a random person, I would go as far as being that generous to offer up my home.
But he was.
However, the alternative to that is, and I don't know his financial situation, is I do feel really remorseful and sorry for you.
Yeah.
I might not be comfortable to take you home with me.
Yeah.
But can I please pay for a place for you to stay?
Yeah.
Now, if there really were no bed and breakfast, then that's entirely different.
Yeah.
But I'm sure somewhere in Stoke, or maybe they were in a rural part, maybe they were the outskirts. I don't really know.
I have no idea. I mean, Glenn, in general, was described by people who knew him as a very helpful and generous man.
Yeah, but anyone who dies, something like that comes out about them, with all due respect.
No, there have been people who died and, have had things said about them that weren't
like
up to par. Like, yes, that would be a great example.
There's no need for these comments, Laza.
No, but you have a point. You do, but...
No, but he was actually an absolute dictator who I hope is burning a million times a day.
Yes, 1,000%. But Glenn was amazing, right? He was generous.
He was old as well.
And that shows your generosity as well. You know what I mean? Like...
Wasn't he ex-army or was that Peter?
I'm not sure.
One of them was ex-army as well.
No, but I don't know. I don't want any Glenn slander, please. He was being super nice and friendly.
Glenn, yes, I take my suspicions back. And he's dead.
Yeah, and people were saying, like, look at where his kindness got him. You know what I mean? It's really sad.
But 99 times out of 10, that does not happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It doesn't.
99 times out of 100.
No, yeah.
Like, God forbid. Anyways, without spoiling it.
Yeah. Without spoiling it, which we did.
Haven't. No, we kind of didn't. The actual act itself is wow.
It's wild. And everything was normal, He took her back to his place and they weren't alone. Peter was there. They had a few drinks. At first she was warm and friendly and everything was fine. But then she started acting weird. So she had a pack of cigarettes with her and she offered Glenn and Peter a cigarette each. And then when they went to put the cigarette in their mouth, she was like, "What are you doing? These could be poison."
The paranoia is kicking back in.
Yeah, and they were like, hold on, what is going on? Like, what's happening? She would get up and look out the window and close the blinds out of nowhere and do this thing where she was just like really, really paranoid. And obviously some of the reason she's with Glenn is because of his brother and his connections, and he could potentially help her find Ursula. So he asks about Ursula. He asks her questions and she makes it into a really awkward silence, or she changes the topic. And so before Peter leaves, he tells Glenn, listen, I think there's something off here. She's acting weird. I don't think this is a safe situation for you. He raises concerns. And Glenn says, you know what? No. She looks like she needs help and I want to help her. And that's the kind of person he was. That's why I'm like, I don't stand Glenn.
We stand Glenn on this channel.
We love Glenn.
Much love.
So all is fine, actually, until the next day at 7 p.m. Glenn has cooked them food and all is well. And he goes outside to get some... What was he getting? To get some tea from his neighbor, because he wanted to make tea and he'd run out, whatever. So his neighbor is outside washing his car. And he's like, okay, I'll get you some tea. Let me just finish washing my car. I'll go back inside, get the tea, and give it to you. So Glenn walks in, and as soon as he's in, not even a minute goes by, and Sabina literally stabs him 4 to 5 times.
In the head, right?
Everywhere. Like, I think one of the stabs was in the heart, and he was clutching his stomach when he walked out.
Wow.
So she stabs him, and he opens the door, he gets out, he's clutching his stomach, and he collapses in the front of his home. And the neighbor obviously sees this and runs to Glenn and calls 999. And it's so sad. He kept repeating, she stabbed me, she stabbed me. And then the next thing he said was, please take care of my dog. And so...
It gets stranger. Because when Sabina's running out, she's doing what?
Yeah, she's hitting herself on the head with a hammer. So
where did she even get the hammer?
I don't know. While the neighbor was on the phone,
murder,
yeah, with 999, she gets out, she sprints out, starts running out of nowhere.
Hammer in her hand.
Yeah.
And she's repeatedly beating herself on the head with a hammer.
Well, she stops running, she sits down, and she keeps kind of hitting herself over and over and over again, to the point where her head is, like, her hair is matted with blood. And so a passerby, he's driving, right? I can't remember his name. Joshua. He's driving and he sees her doing this. So he gets out of his car. He tries to help her. She gets a weapon out of her back pocket.
Is it a roof tile or something?
Yeah. Hits him over the back of the head. Gets up. Starts to run. And at this point, paramedics see what's happening. So paramedics are running after her, trying to stop her from doing anything else to herself. She reaches a bridge that's over like a highway. It's like a 30-foot drop. And she literally jumps off the bridge. And that's when she sustains injuries of her, like, to both her ankles. Her ankles are broken. I think she gets like her ribs. She hurts her ribs or something like that. But the fact of the matter is she's still alive. How are you alive after getting hit? I mean, I'm glad, but how are you alive after getting hit twice by a car? And the second time you damage the car, you hit yourself with a hammer. And then you
jumping off a 12-meter bridge. And both her ankles were sprained or broken, and she fractures her skull.
Yeah.
And again, she's taken in by the police services. She's taken to hospital first.
Yeah.
And then she's taken into custody.
Yeah.
And this time she's charged, right?
Yes.
Because she's killed somebody.
Yeah. I think she ended up spending 5 years in prison.
I actually, let me see. She did plead guilty instantly.
Yeah.
She was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Do you know how many days she actually served?
Days?
Yeah.
Huh?
No, as in not less than just ask.
I'd say 400.
439 days.
Oh my God.
352 days in a calendar year, correct?
Yeah.
Just over a year.
That's insane.
Sentenced to 5 years.
But that's the thing. It's because...
How is she getting away with everything?
I think because of, well, they said that it was folie deux. So basically folie deux is like a madness of two. People make fun of me the way I say this on TikTok, but folie deux, because of, what's it called? Like,
shared paranoia.
Yeah, shared paranoia.
So you can have the same delusions as somebody if you're close to them, if you live amongst them.
Yeah.
But the difference between Sabina and Ursula, and let's say another case of folie deux, is that Ursula had to fly in to be with Sabina. So unless we're talking about that short time frame in which things are happening in, and they run away, they're not really within close proximity.
Yeah.
So their delusions synced up very quickly.
Yeah, because they're twins. This folie deux almost always happens to twins.
Wow.
So it can happen to other family members and people who are generally
Siblings,
really close
parents.
to each other. Yeah, families, which is the next case we're going to be talking about. But mostly it happens to twins. It's the most common in twins.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why her sentencing was so low, is because they deemed her to be very confused at the time of the crime. And justice was definitely, though, not served for Glenn.
Yeah, I think 439 days isn't enough. So any final points on this story before we move on to the next one?
No final points for me. I think it speaks for itself. How
it's
insane.
A crazy one, to say the least.
So our next story is about the Tromp family. The Tromp family.
The Australian family.
Yes. So I might sound like I'm saying Trump, but I'm saying Tromp.
Oh, no, you're not saying Trump like China. You're not saying that guy Trump.
Yeah, not that guy Trump. This is Trump. So they're from Australia.
O, right?
Yeah, with an O. And basically, the family consists of Mark and Jacoba Tromp, who are a married couple. And they have 3 children. So Rihanna, who was 29 at the time of the incident, Mitchell, who was 25, and Ella, who was 22. They're just regular people, like nothing outwardly off or anything like that. One day, they just disappeared, right? And their friends and family were so worried about them, they called for a welfare check. And the police go to their house. They find all of the cars there, except for Ella's car, who was 22 at the time, and all of the cars had the keys in the ignition. And then, so they're like, weird, what's going on? So they go into the house and they find all of the family's IDs except for Mitchell's ID. They find Mitchell's ID and all of the phones except for Mitchell's phone. So all of the family's phones are at home and everything like that. And the state of their home was crazy. It looked like someone was trying to rummage through things. It looked like things were out of sorts. It looked like basically it was a mess. Not in like a dirty way, but everything was all over the place. A lot of
paperwork, a lot of financial documents.
Yeah. So that at this stage, they're on a road trip, right? And 19 miles into the road trip, Mark, the dad, finds out that his son Mitchell has his phone with him. And he tells him, throw your phone out the car. And Mitchell's like, okay. And he literally just throws his phone out of the car. And it's believed he did this because he believed that someone was stealing or trying to steal all of their money. So he wanted, he was like...
Which goes back to the financial records, because as far as people could tell, this family was not in debt.
Yeah.
They didn't have any financial issues.
No.
But they got paranoid and ran away.
Yeah.
And they didn't take phones with them because they were scared of being tracked.
Yeah.
And they were going like nowhere. Really random spots.
Yeah. Very random. Right? And that says something, because for example, if we're in a car, right? And you tell me, Nora, throw your phone out the car, I'll call you crazy and tell you to leave me alone. He did not do that. Mitchell obliged. So that maybe just goes to show a little bit how much he believed his dad's delusion or his dad's theory, but he just threw it out. But then again, how much do you believe it if you took your phone with you? Do you get what I mean?
Everyone else has done it at this point.
Yeah. Like if I believed that someone was trying to track me and steal my money, I wouldn't take my phone with me on a road trip. I'd just leave it at home. So maybe he was just trying to keep his dad calm and threw the phone out the window, and he didn't actually believe the theory.
Well, actually, how much he believed, we'll find out, because something happens when they arrive at the destination.
Yes. So basically, after this, everyone was looking for them because they're like, what's going on? And at this stage, they have driven 500 miles away from their home, right? And while they reached this destination that's 500 miles away, Mitchell literally left the family. He was like, stop the car, I'm getting out. He gets out, and that's on that. So he gets out of the car, and the rest of the family drive an extra 50 miles. And now Ella and Rihanna are like, stop the car, we're getting out. So they get out of the car. And because, again, they don't have phones, they don't have IDs, they don't have credit cards, nothing on them, they had to steal a car. So Ella and Rihanna steal a car, right? And after stealing a car, they drove for 95 miles and to the nearest police station and reported their parents missing.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at my
That's
notes.
okay. So then they split up.
But then they split up, yeah.
Yeah, they split up.
Didn't Mitchell leave first?
Yes, Mitchell left first, yeah. So he left first, and then Ella and Rihanna left second. They stole a car. And so Ella and Rihanna split up after reporting their parents missing. And Ella said she was splitting up from Rihanna because she wanted to feed the horses because they lived on like a farm.
Yeah, they were agricultural people.
Yeah. So tell me why. Rihanna not only didn't go with her, but she snuck into a man's car. Like the boot of his car. And he doesn't notice it. Like this guy thinks everything is fine. He's like driving for an hour, like you said. And he hears a kick. So he's like, what the hell's going on? Like, what? So he pulls over, gets out the car, looks in the back, and he sees Rihanna there, right? And I don't know how you would react. Like, I don't know how...
Not normally.
How you would react after this. Because he looks at her and she wasn't, like, responsive. Like, she didn't know who she was. She didn't know where she was. She didn't know anything about herself. Like, she doesn't know her name at this point. So imagine, not only did you hear a kid get out, see a person, this person doesn't know, they're catatonic, right? So he calls the paramedics, they come, and they take her to a psychiatric unit for her to get treatment, where she stayed there for months. She was there for months after this, right? And at all this point, Ella reached home and everything, and cops are there, and they're like, hello, what's going on, you know? And she's like, I don't know what's happening. And they're like, no, like, where are your family? I don't know what's happening. Every question they ask her, she's confused. She doesn't know what's happening. Nothing like that. And then the next morning, the morning after Ella shows up, Mitchell shows up, right? And he took longer to get there because he had to take a bunch of trains to get back, which obviously proved difficult when you don't have navigation, when you don't have a credit card, when you don't have
He must have been sneaking on these trains.
Literally. So when they're both back at this stage, they do this interview to ease the public's mind, but it's not easing anyone's mind because their questions, the questions that cops and the public have for them, come up with nothing. They don't know what's happening. They're like, we're confused too. We have no idea what's happening, basically. So at this stage, the parents are still missing, right? So Rihanna's at a psychiatric hospital and Ella and Mitchell are now back home. Parents are not there anymore. But at this stage, Mark and Jacoba drove 370 miles back to their house, right? And then they got separated.
Oh, yes.
Jacoba was like, get me out. And she literally used public transport to travel 200 miles away from home. And she went to this place called Yaz, and she tried to book like a motel in the city. And it didn't work because she was acting so weird that the person at the motel was like freaking out. Like they were like, what's happening? So they called someone to come and take her to the hospital. She ended up at the same psychiatric facility that her daughter was in.
Rihanna.
Yeah. And while she's in the mental hospital, Mark is still driving, right? And he's not driving normally at this point. At this point, he's literally tailgating this young couple. Like he's like driving like right at the back of their car. And so they pull over because they're like, this is dangerous. And they call the cops. They tell the cops, someone's tailgating us. This is weird. They pull over. Mark gets out of the car, starts running towards them. And then he stops. He turns around and then runs into a park and disappears. And they're just sitting there like...
And he leaves his car as well.
Yeah, he just leaves the car.
Completely leaves his car.
And they're just standing there like, what is going on? So police searched the park and they didn't find him. Imagine they don't find him for 6 days.
Wow.
He's not found for 6 days. They look for him everywhere. He's not found. Turns out what he was doing is he was breaking into motels and sleeping there. And when they found him, he was just walking in the street aimlessly. He was super agitated. There was actually a picture of him getting like put in a police car, and he was giving like the cops and the cameras the finger. So he was super, super
They let him go because his brother was
agitated.
a cop.
Yes.
So they handed him over to his brother, who was a cop.
Yeah, basically. And he had a mental evaluation that concluded after 5 hours. And he was still so mad. Like, they were taking pictures of him and all of the things, and he was so irritated. And that's because he didn't want to be found. And they're like, in his head, he's like, I did all of this to not want to be found, to run away from these people who were trying to steal my information and my money. And now you're taking pictures of me and I'll be found. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's why he was, he felt like he was being exposed. And there was no sign of drugs. Nothing. There was no sign of drugs. There was no sign that just happened out of nowhere.
A crazy incident. Yeah.
It's wild.
The whole family got paranoid. Maybe something happened that we don't know about.
Maybe.
But it didn't appear like... Because they even tried to use the reasoning of the mob was after us. And a lot of things were mentioned. No one really knows what happened with this family. It was nationwide news.
Yeah. It's crazy. This case had Australia on a chokehold.
Mate, but there's a bigger chokehold, and we're going to have to go to another continent for this.
What?
Because I think, arguably, an even crazier story of someone getting missing or kidnapped is Sherri Papini.
Oh my God, don't get me started on Sherri Papini.
Sherri's story is
mind-boggling. Oh my God, don't get me started.
Well, you're going to have to because it's
I'm
next
going to
part of the
have
podcast.
to get started. So, Sherri
Today, Nora.
Papini.
Sherri's story is very mad.
Sherri's story is crazy. So,
and it lasts for a long time.
It did. So, Sherri Gariff married Keith Papini in 2008, October of 2008. I think they were high school sweethearts.
Yes, they were in and out of the relationships, and eventually they ended up back to each other.
Yeah. So, they had 2 kids called Tyler and Violet. And here are the facts of the case. So on November 2nd, Keith Papini goes back home from work as usual, and he doesn't see his wife or his kids at home, right? And this was so weird because they were always there by the time they got home because Sherri was a stay-at-home mom. She always picked them up before he finished work. So Keith calls the daycare alarmed, and he's like, have the kids been picked up? And they say, no, they're still here. So he goes and he picks the kids up, and then he uses the Find My iPhone app to see where Sherri is. And he finds Sherri's phone and her earbuds a mile away from her home where she usually runs. Because at this stage, she's preparing for like a 5K marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, she usually runs in the mornings and stuff like that. But the weird thing about the earphones is that it looked like her hair had been tangled in them. Like there was a struggle.
As in, So if you dropped your phones now,
Yeah.
if you dropped your phone now on your earphones or whatever, you'd imagine it to be a bit dangly all over the place.
Yeah.
But in this case, it seems to be very neatly.
Yeah.
Just laid on the floor with some hair next to the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I mean, so you guys can all make up your own mind at the end of the story, but I want to go ahead and say I don't think it was fake.
Now, I have a very unique perspective on this because
Well, that's what you're here for, so go on.
this story was covered. What was it? She went missing in 2016. And I was one of the first people to hear about it when it happened because I love true crime.
I thought you were going to say I was one of the first people on site.
Imagine.
Nora the mermaid
No,
was there.
Literally. No, I heard about this case and I fully believed her.
Interesting.
I fully believed
So can
her.
you change my mind?
Well, I can now because we know the facts, but before the internet was so divided. Every true crime channel that posted this video, it was divided. People saying we should always believe the victim. People saying, I believe her. Her story adds up. Why would she do this? And people saying, you know what? No, this is a lie. This is BS. No one believes her. So the internet was really divided for a long, long time, like 6 years until the truth came out.
Let's break down the steps and then you can try convince me that it was faked.
So the story blew up and it was literally covered by almost every single huge broadcasting channel. Everyone covered the story. It was literally nationwide search for her. Keith even went on the news to say how distraught he is and how he wants to find his wife, and obviously that he is certain she was taken against her will because of the whole earphone situation and she wouldn't leave her kids and all of the things. Until on November 24th, 2016. So when did she leave? She left on November 2nd. She resurfaced on November 24th. And she was discovered 150 miles south from where she went missing.
150. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And she was all kind of bruised and broken.
Yes.
And she was on the side of the highway.
Yes.
At nighttime, might I add.
So a woman actually saw her and she called the police and she said, listen, there's this woman. There's a chain around her waist. She looks like she's been in trouble. Can you please come and help? So the police come and she's disheveled 100%. She was severely injured. She had a chain around her waist. She had a strange branding on her left shoulder.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a branding, what you do to animals on a farm.
Literally. And what sex traffickers do as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she had a strange, she lost a ton of weight. Her nose was swollen. She had ligature marks on her wrists and ankles, and she had a rash on her arm and her inner thigh. And at first, when she came back, she didn't actually want to talk to police because she was told by her captors that they were law enforcement, that they were the police. So she was too scared to talk to the police because they're like, you're the ones who did this to me. I'm not speaking to you, basically. But when she did start opening up, she said that 2 Mexican women wearing glasses drove past her as she was jogging. And when they seen her and drove past her, they went back, they backed up, right? And one of them said, can you help me? So Sherri walks over to the car, and that's when they show her a gun and tell her to go in. So she gets into the car where they took her to a location where they put her in a closet with a bucket and kitty litter to do her business.
Madness.
They starved her. They cut off her long blonde hair. She had really, really long blonde hair. They cut it off. They branded her. They basically tortured her. And most of all, and I quote,
for a long period of time, and she was kept in a really dark and dirty place.
Yeah. And most of all, most important of them all is, and I quote, this is a quote from her from the police report. She said they played really annoying Mexican music. So she says that one day her captors just released her. They said to get in the car and they'll just release her. She gave the FBI enough information about the women.
Didn't she also say that there was a problem between the 2 captors and one of them shot the other or something?
Yeah, I saw nothing about a shooting, but I saw that one of the captors, the older one, would hit the younger one and scream at her. But that's all I saw about that. And she gave the FBI enough info about the women for a sketch, and To offer help, the California Victims Compensation offered her $30,000 for therapy session, blinds, and ambulance bills.
Blinds?
I guess I thought of curtains.
Oh, okay.
Maybe,
privacy stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And so the authorities, including the FBI, were super apprehensive about the whole thing, right? They said that her story has holes, and they kept questioning her actually up until 2020. But nothing would come up. And she got away with it almost for years. So she was...
So you're very much convinced that this was fake?
No, this is faked. This was 100%. She's in jail now, I think. She's in prison. She's serving time, I think.
Well, I stand corrected. But there is one other detail. Didn't someone come forward to try and offer money and all of this other stuff? Like a guy who helps in these situations. I think I have his name.
Oh, yeah.
What was that Donnie's name?
Oh, I saw that.
Cameron Campbell.
Yeah, isn't he the one that tells you how to get out of a kidnapping?
Yeah, so this guy, I don't know if he still does it, but his kind of job, or he's made it a job of his to go and try and help rescue people who've been kidnapped.
Yes.
And he has 4 remote locations all over the world, which are undisclosed.
Yeah.
But they act as meeting points.
Yes.
So if someone has been kidnapped, they can be taken to that location, and Cameron Campbell will be a part of the negotiation.
Yes.
They offered money on 2 occasions. First time 50,000. I think the money came through an anonymous source, not through Cameron. And then 100,000.
Yeah.
Neither large sums of money were ever collected by these so-called captures.
Yeah.
And the first deadline set for the 50,000 was never met.
Yeah.
So they set the 100,000 one.
Yeah.
And then, but eventually she was found.
Yes.
Now roll back onto your point, because I'm very curious as to how this was faked.
So, in 2022, they found evidence on her clothing where they found a male DNA.
Wait, after how many years?
6 years now.
They found DNA after 6 years?
Yep.
So they must have kept and held on to her...
Yeah, they held on to her clothes. And again, she went missing in 2016. And she got arrested for this in 2022.
Wow.
So basically what happened was the DNA of that was found on the clothes she was found in was linked to her ex-boyfriend. And so an investigation was launched, and they found that Sherri has been talking to her ex-boyfriend as early as December of 2015.
Is that the one that lived in Detroit?
Yeah. Wait, was it Detroit? I don't think. South California.
Okay, this woman has history of doing that, because in the research that I did, before going missing by roughly a month, she'd been in contact with someone from Detroit.
Oh my God.
That one I know is the case because I have it written down in my notes.
Yeah.
But I thought we were talking about the same guy. It turns out there's another guy.
Yeah.
Tell us about the other guy.
So basically, there was no 2 Mexican women. There was no gun. There was no closet with kitty litter and a bucket. None of that was true.
Well, can we also disclose or drop the opinion or fact that usually when kidnappings happen, women are often not involved directly in the kidnapping. And secondly, there are very, very few instances of 2 women kidnapping another woman.
That's really interesting. I actually didn't know that.
The statistics don't point towards the fact of this being something common.
I don't know what her issue was with Mexican women, but... she's weirdo. She's a weirdo and a racist.
So here we go, actually. This is the note I had from earlier talking about the guy. The police put out info. They put out this information that Sherri was texting a man from Michigan who she stopped texting just before the kidnapping. But police said that this man was cleared of all charges. But they knew what they were doing when they put it out, because they put it out publicly. They didn't put it out for no reason. An expert in criminology, by the way, a man who at this point, when the research was done, had over 20 years of experience in such fields. He said he was amazed by the coincidence. This was so at this point, they didn't have the evidence that you're going to drop on us.
Yeah.
But they did have a lot of information, and Sherri had come back, and a few years had gone by.
Yeah.
And this man, who's an expert in the field, literally said, amazed by the coincidence. And he said it was highly unlikely that 2 women did the kidnapping. And he went on to say, quote, none of it makes sense.
Yes, so many people were apprehensive. So many people didn't believe her.
Also, think about violent crime in general. How often do women actually...
Yeah.
It's not common.
You're totally right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why the FBI also were really apprehensive. They were like, how true is this?
Up until the point me and you started talking about this, or up until the point you're going to drop this info, I was fully convinced that Sherri was not guilty in the slightest.
Yeah. And so basically, it wasn't the two Mexican women that held her at gunpoint. It was actually her ex-boyfriend who picked her up from that location where she went missing, quote, right? And he said he didn't hear from her at all for a while because he assumed it was all over since she was married with kids and stuff like that. But one day she reached out to him. She called him while he was at work and she said to him, my husband is abusing me. I need to run away to you. And he was like, oh my God, okay. So he's willing. He goes and he picks her up and he takes her back to his place in Southern California.
Wait, so the gunpoint thing doesn't happen?
Never happened. That did never ever happened. That never happened to her.
Oh, okay. So she was just picked up from the location?
She asked him to pick her up because she wanted to get away.
And make it look like a...
Yeah.
But at this point, Keith was being very nice. As far as we know, Keith was a great husband.
Yeah, he was. None of it was true. She lied about that too. None of it was true. And so he picks her up, takes her to Southern California. And the reason he did this again was because he believed her 1000% that her husband was abusing her. And she even told him, I tried to report my husband to the police, but the police weren't doing anything about it. So I need to run away. And the craziest thing is, she asked him, when he takes her to his place, he lets her pick the room she was going to stay at because they didn't stay in the same room or anything like that. She picks the room. And as soon as she's there, she cuts her own hair. Okay. And she also asks him if they can board up the windows.
Who put out this information?
Well, the ex-boyfriend came forward when his DNA was found and he told the police everything.
Oh, he snitched?
Yeah, he was like, she asked me to get freaking boards and board up the windows. Where was he the
past 6 years?
I don't know. That's the thing. I guess maybe he didn't want to get in trouble or something like that. So they board up the windows and he said she liked a lot of alone time. She spent a lot of time in that room by herself. We didn't really talk. He would be outside in the couch in the living room and she would literally be in there doing like nothing, right? She would only eat small portions of the food that he would make to make herself look skinny, obviously. And she gave herself her own injuries. So she would hit herself. She would, she even branded herself. She asked him to buy her like a gadget or something. I don't know what it's called, so that she can brand herself with it by herself.
Oh, wow.
And she even asked him to participate in hurting her. She asked him to like hit a puck off her knee.
This guy is questionable at best.
Well,
Let me tell you why.
He kept saying...
If I am with someone I care about, an ex-girlfriend, a current girlfriend, a sister, a brother, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Firstly, you're asking me to board up my walls.
Yeah.
That's weird enough as it is. Secondly, you also then need a lot of alone time. That's a bit more normal. Thirdly, you've cut your hair randomly. I have seen plenty of times in which a girl or a woman reacts in cutting her hair, and it usually happens out of panic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can think of an example off the top of my head. I knew somebody, super exam stress. I cut my hair.
Yeah.
She does it first thing as she gets to this new location. And then she's hitting herself, injuring herself. She is starving herself. She is branding herself. I'm sorry, but this goes back to one of the things we were saying earlier about like people being complicit in these things. Yeah. Like, he is not innocent.
No, he's not. And worst of all, if she was doing this to try to prove that her husband was abusing her, surely that's not right.
No, but I know the term red flag is used a lot.
Yeah, but it is a red flag.
That's
100%.
More than a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a red banner.
It really is.
That's a red room.
It is.
It's a red city.
It is. It's wild.
That's the red room in Black Widow.
Literally. It's crazy.
This guy was in on it. Can I give you my theory?
Yes.
Without trying to sound rude or explicit.
Yeah.
I think they were into that type of stuff.
No. In the police reports, listen, call me naive, but in the police reports, he literally said he was not participating in it.
Yeah, but you can say a lot of things. It doesn't mean it's true. Sherri said for a long time that she was kidnapped.
True. That's true.
There are couples, and these things do exist, who kind of enjoy a very physical intimacy.
Yeah.
but in a very harmful way.
Like masochists and sadists. Yeah, no, I get that totally.
If you're sticking around for this, for the time that Sherri was kidnapped for, what, a month?
Almost.
How long was she missing?
From November 2nd, and she resurfaced on Thanksgiving Day.
Nora, if me and you were attracted to somebody and they then came to live with us, and for a whole month they were acting like that, very quickly we would be unattracted to them.
Very quickly we'd call the police. I would call the police as soon as she started hitting herself.
At the very least, you'd be like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a part of this relationship.
At the very least, you would see that the news says she's missing, and you would contact the police and say, she is not missing, she is right here.
So do you see what I mean when I say that these two might have been into certain things?
Maybe. I don't know if we'll ever know, because that's what he's saying. He's saying he never participated. He never hit her. He never did anything. She did all of it by herself.
I believe you. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying 6 years is a long time, and you squealed as soon as some pressure was applied to you. And bear in mind, at the beginning, of course, the police are going to go after Sherri first.
Yeah.
Because Sherri started this whole thing. But I think in a few years, they might press him again.
Maybe.
And what did Sherri say about this?
I think she gave some bullshit apology. Can I say bullshit?
Yeah, of course.
She gave some BS apology, and she was like, oh my God,
Did she
sorry.
get divorced?
Yeah. He filed for full custody for the kid.
When?
After this whole thing came out.
So 6 years later.
Yeah.
Imagine you as a man, or as anyone who has someone you really care about in the world, let alone a wife that's carried 2 kids for you. She goes missing. You are distraught.
Yeah. And he was,
for weeks. The stress of knowing the love of your life is not here.
Yeah.
And she's missing, and she could be dead. And you probably believed for a long time that she was dead.
Yeah.
I'd file for more than divorce.
Oh, yeah. No, he filed for custody, and then he filed for a divorce.
This might be one of the only ever divorce cases where the woman probably gets nothing out of it.
Literally, no. Thankfully. Guess how much she was sentenced to, though?
Oh, are you saying that? You're saying it was not long enough, was it?
No.
2 years?
18 months. And...
Really?
Yep.
18 months. How much of that did she actually serve?
I don't know. I don't know if she's out right now. I actually said she's still in prison now. She's probably not.
18 months for something that was a nationwide search.
Yep.
Traumatized the family. Probably traumatized people in the neighborhood who then got scared that it might happen to them.
And put a lot of increased racism towards Mexican people, especially Mexican women, which that in of itself is disgusting. If I were to fake my own kidnapping and they asked me who kidnapped you, I would say an Arab person.
Why?
Because I'm Arab. I wouldn't say, oh, it was do you get what I mean? Just say it was 2 white people. Like, why do you need to bring like other races into it and like say they were really playing annoying Mexican music and and they fed her tortillas apparently too. Like, how disgusting can you get?
Did she think that she'd get away with it because Mexican people are more stigmatized?
Yeah, probably.
That is a bit mad to say the least.
It's crazy.
Wow, you've convinced me.
It's crazy.
Funnily enough, I didn't know about this. So Sherri really did fake this.
Yeah, she was sentenced in 2022. So I don't know. I don't know if she's out right now. I'm not sure. But a very similar case. I don't know why people do this. I mean, it came out after it, where Sherri Papini's husband came out and said that she had a history of lying. And people who knew her really well also said that she had a history of lying too. And lying in a sense to draw attention to herself as well.
A victim mentality almost.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Like, I'm not to blame. I can't be to blame. It wasn't me.
Literally.
Everything's fine until it isn't.
Literally, it's crazy.
So, we have time for one more.
Yeah, we do.
You choose. Actually, Darwin.
Oh my God, Darwin.
It's talking about people faking things.
Literally.
Let's talk about John Darwin, who actually committed in Britain, Crewe, right? Where was he from?
Where was he from? Southwold, I think.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
Southwold. I think so.
Mentally, because we're in Brighton, I thought maybe he did it in the outskirts around here. But I know he's from a coastal location because this whole thing started because he went out to canoe.
Yeah, I would say Southwold, I think. That's like an area that came up a lot in a lot of this. But basically, John Darwin and his wife Anne, they invested in these buildings, right?
Real estate.
Yeah. And these buildings, basically, they were like semi-attached. They were attached houses, right?
Yeah.
This is important for later.
They had like 6 or 7 on the same road.
And what they did was they would charge the people lower than their mortgage.
Which is a very stupid financial idea.
And it got them into $700,000 of debt. Naturally, it would. I don't know why they did it, but they did it. They were declined the loan. They were in a really, really bad financial spot.
Only way that makes sense is if you get the other amount of money on top as cash.
Yeah.
So you charge 300, but really you get 600.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
We don't know. Probably not, because they were in severe debt. Over £500,000 in debt.
And then John had an amazing idea.
He did indeed. And keep in mind, he has 2 sons with Anne, called Mark and Anthony. So what had happened was he wanted to go canoeing. And he made sure that his neighbor, so obviously like he knew his neighbor's timings and what time his neighbor would go to work or do the gardening or whatever. He made it a point that his neighbor see him went canoeing. And the neighbor is thinking in his head, this is a weird time to go canoeing because the weather isn't cute for canoeing. Like, you shouldn't be canoeing right now. It's not bad that he's like, oh my God, you're going to die.
But it was convenient for his story.
But it's,
because if you need to go missing, what better time than a time when it's rainy and a bit stormy?
Yeah. So he kind of goes canoeing, gets out on the other side, calls his wife Anne and tells her to pick him up. She picks him up. She takes him all the way to the Lake District, where he stays there for a couple of days, right? She goes back. Everyone's looking for him. I think there was £100,000 spent looking for this man.
Yeah.
Right?
Those are roughly the figures. And by the way, this is £100,000 like 10,
in
15 years
2002.
ago. Yeah. That was a lot more back then.
Yeah. So they spend that amount of money and all of the things, and everyone's looking for him. Everyone's scared. His sons are distraught. Mark and Anthony, they're like, oh my God, like...
The wife reports him missing.
Yes. So they're distraught. They're like, oh my God, what's happening? They go to their mom's place to comfort her and all of the things, right? And so all of this time, he's chilling at the Lake District. And he gets bored. So he calls Anne and he's like, hey, Anne, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm kind of bored. And she's like, what do you mean you're bored? You faked your own disappearance. You can't come back. And he's like, no, come pick me up.
Before we talk about him coming back to his hometown, let's explain to the people what they got out of John pretending to be dead.
So they didn't get it yet. I think the life insurance policy was cashed out. How much was $249,000 in life insurance money was cashed.
Yes. So the breakdown of that is £25,000 in life insurance.
Yeah.
£25,000 in teacher's pension.
Yeah.
£58,000 in prison pension.
Yeah.
£4,000 from the department and working pensions, and £137,000 from Norwich Union mortgage policy.
It's wild. That's a lot of numbers.
How long, roughly or exactly, did he wait until he was like, I'm bored and I'm coming back?
I think at the latest, a couple weeks.
Really? You fake your death and you can't hide for more than 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah. He was over it. And you know what? When his wife...
Over it, as if it was a flavor of a drink or something.
And his wife was kind of like... She was like... But she couldn't challenge him, you know? She wasn't... He bullied her into this. And I really do believe that he bullied her into this. I believe that she didn't want to do it. He bullied her into this. Because according to her, she came out with a book called Out of My Depths. According to her, he had abused her, right? To the point where... she couldn't, mentally abused her to the point where she felt like she couldn't survive without him. And he literally told her, if you're not going to help me, what the hell are you doing with your life? Like, where are you going to be without me?
Yeah, but they did a lot of things. So it's one thing to get bullied into the first thing, but as we go on to this story, you'll see that they were complicit in many, many dodgy things together.
Yep. So he comes back from the Lake District and he builds a secret passage from one of his properties that connects straight into this house.
Yes.
And the good thing, and I say good loosely, quote, good, air quote, was that they had a gravel road, like a gravel driveway, so they could hear whenever a car was coming. So as soon as they heard that, he would just get up, go into the secret passageway into the other house and hide out there.
Yeah, from his sons, for example.
Yes. But
that were concerned that their dad was dead, basically.
And you know what's actually crazier than that? is he would be in an old man's disguise in his garden doing work as his sons would come and visit his wife.
Their mother.
Yes. They would literally go and visit their mom and check on her. And he would literally be standing outside. They would walk past him, not knowing that that's their father.
Oh, they wouldn't believe it. For so long, they've heard that he's dead.
Literally.
Even if you saw someone that looked like your father, you'd be like, that's not my dad. But he was spotted by 2 people. Oh, wait. We have to mention whose name he took when he tried to get the new identity.
But we're jumping ahead.
I'm always jumping ahead.
We are jumping ahead because I have to tell you how he even got that name to begin with.
Let's go.
So you would think he's holed up in his place. Yeah, and he's chilling, right? He's indoors. He's not chilling. He goes out to the library. He goes out to the beach. And he goes out to graveyards. Why does he go out to graveyards? Because he wants to scope out a name that he can steal. And John Darwin has an amazing moral compass that he didn't want to steal a person's identity who was still alive. So he's like, I'm going to steal a dead person's identity. And not any dead person's identity. A baby that died at 5 weeks old's identity.
Who had the same birthday?
Who had the same birthday and the same name. So the baby's name who passed away was also John. So let's see whose
John
identity.
starts trying to form a new identity. He took the identity of someone dead. He used a dead baby, 5 weeks old when the baby died, and the name was John Jones.
Yes, John Jones. So he did this because what would happen was, he was like, if I'm out in public and someone recognizes me and says John, and I turn around, I'll go like, no, I'm not John Darwin, I am John Jones. And so with this new identity, he got a new passport to match. And when he wasn't just playing dead, right? He was also playing this like online game. And this online game, it was like a game where you can play online with people.
And he met Kelly from Kansas.
Yes.
In America.
Yes.
And they decided to invest in some real estate together, or try to.
Yes.
So while he's supposedly dead, he's making use, while being alive, of this insurance money that they've got. After they've cleared their debts or managed to reduce their debts, he's now thinking of new business ventures. What a guy, right?
Literally. Like an equestrian center in Kansas or something crazy like that. So when he met Kelly through this online game, he decided to travel.
Yes, he went to Kansas, yeah.
Yeah, he went to the U.S. And at first he was staying with her and her kids, Kelly and her kids. And he started being weird. She felt uncomfortable and she was like, leave, go stay in a hotel. And from the hotel, he literally called her saying, the deal is off. I want you to give me my investment money back. And if you don't give me my investment money back, I work with the mob. I'm in a mob and they will come after you. Now, Kelly doesn't know that this is BS. She's scared, obviously, for her life,
Naturally.
rightfully so. For years, basically, she couldn't sell it. Like, the ranch itself wasn't getting sold. It wasn't her fault that she couldn't pay him back or anything like that. And he traveled everywhere, him and his wife. They went to, where did they go? They went to the US, they went to Spain, they went to Cyprus, they went to Panama, all the while looking for places to invest in.
Yeah, he left Kelly alone and then he went to Cyprus.
Yeah.
Then he went to Spain because Cyprus wasn't for him. Yeah. And in Spain, they thought about buying a boat.
Yes.
Which was worth 60, which he haggled down to 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
But then he started acting weird again. So the deal was once again off. Yes. So then what happens? Well, John and Anne go to Panama. And this is my point about Anne. She's complicit every step of the way. Yeah. So it's one thing to be bullied into it at the beginning or in the first month, 6 months, 1 year. I think she started to almost live in the lie with him. And now have you ever, most people have done this, harmfully or harmlessly, I don't know. But have you ever kept information from somebody? And the longer you keep the information from them, the worse it gets.
Yes.
And the more the person will be thinking, why didn't you tell me in the first place? That's what Anne was in. Because imagine after 2 years, she turns around to her son and say, hey, your dad's actually not dead, and he's this guy here.
That's what I was thinking too, and what
she was in too deep.
Yeah, and the impact of mental abuse as well. You know, for someone to tell you, if you're gonna leave me, you're nothing. I personally would never say that to someone ever. So a person who says this kind of thing doesn't say it in isolation. There are other behavioral traits as well, and other things that they probably have done that from the past for them to be comfortable enough Because an abuser doesn't just like abuse you straight up right away. Like from what I've heard, they build up to it, right? So first it's like controlling what you wear a little bit, controlling what you dress a little bit, controlling your friends
Everything's
a little bit. And then as soon as you know it, you've been isolated from your friends. Your self-esteem is smashed. They've been together, 37 years at this stage?
And at this point as well, in any form of relationship, you're now emotionally attached.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
You've carried 2 kids for this man. So, and you're right, if it is learned behavior, if this is a habit of John Darwin's, then of course after 37 years, it's subconscious and she is numb to it.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, like, you know, like how the deal with, like in Spain came off with the boat. They ended up going to Panama, and that's when they found a deal that they liked. So they got a plot of land, and they also got an apartment, and they stayed there, and everything was hunky-dory. But before that deal was signed, John Darwin took a picture with the person who gave him the deal.
Posted it on Facebook. And I don't know what happened. Maybe he thought, oh, like, I'm outed. That's it. Like, I'm done. But this man literally leaves Panama, goes to the UK, goes to London, and then goes to the police and tells them, my name is John Darwin. I think I've been missing since 2002. I have no memory of who I am or what happened. Very convenient. Very, very convenient. Anne also at one point acted like she didn't know who John was. John was alive.
Yeah, she was like...
So they both were a bit convenient. And then Anne felt pressured. Now, John was obviously arrested.
Yeah.
And as soon as Anne was arrested, she also told the whole story. She started to snitch on the matter as well. And as I put it in my notes, she sang like a canary.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. No, but that's crazy.
I wonder if she made any money off that book.
She said, I saw in one of the news articles that any money she made towards that book will go towards, any money she made from that book will go towards the search, the costs of the search. But I haven't seen anything about her actually doing it. She might have. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't.
Well, listen, the investigation at the end concluded that the couple had stolen altogether £649,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And do you know how some of these things were eventually found out?
A lot of money. How?
So a journalist by the name of Gerard actually hacked John's emails, which is technically unethical, and you can't do that, and you can't bring that into a court of law.
No.
However, in this case, because it was a matter of public interest, public money had been funded for this man to find him, the judge ruled that it would be allowed to be admitted into the court. And Gerard didn't get in trouble for this.
Thankfully.
But
our hero,
they used it to convict him because it was the best interest of the public, which is what they said.
Yeah.
And tried to fight the case on her end. She didn't just plead guilty like John did, even though she sang like a canary. But they were both released in 2011, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, they were.
John is now married in the Philippines.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I pray for his wife that she is okay. Because listen,
she's been accepted by the Sons. She's been accepted again by the Sons.
And the Sons didn't want to talk to them for a long, long time.
Would you?
No, they're better than me. Because...
I mean, there's lies, right? There's the lie of telling Nora, the 8-year-old, that you can be a mermaid, and there's the lie of telling someone your father's dead.
Literally,
and we did it for insurance money.
Awful.
And we didn't stop when the insurance money came in.
It's awful.
We then started trying to invest in everything.
It's awful. It's absolutely, absolutely awful to do that to someone, and to do that to your own children. I cannot imagine.
What goes through the minds of people like this? Because we have discussed 4 crazy topics.
I don't know what's wrong with people. I wake up every day and I'm like,
do you think these people are wrong, or over time they become wrong?
All I know is that me personally, as a normal person in society, would never wake up one day and say, I'm going to fake my kidnapping. Or wake up one day and say, you know what? I think I'll fake my murder for £600,000. So I don't think you wake up kind of like, I think people who do this, who fake their kidnappings, I would not be able to do it, not for anything. First of all, I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, you have Sherri Papini, she took her inspo from Gone Girl. Right?
That's one way to put it, Nora.
And so I wouldn't be able, I'm sorry, I'm not that creative. And even if I was, I'd be too, I feel bad when I miss the call.
You'd be outing yourself on TikTok.
Literally, I go like, guys, it's Facebook kidnapping. Like, no. No, why would you do that?
Well, let's look at the motives. We have Sabina and Ursula, who probably did suffer from folie deux and shared psychosis.
Yeah.
Then we went on to the Tromp family, who definitely suffered from some form of a paranoia.
Yeah.
We then know that John Darwin had financial motives. So those three make sense.
Yeah.
Sherry's makes a bit less sense, but we can look at it from a manipulative I can't talk. Manipulative standpoint of maybe you want this person back in your life.
Yes.
So how do you manipulate him? How do you get him to come back? Oh, my partner's abusing me. The Sherry one is by far the most confusing, but the other three do kind of make sense.
Yeah. No, the Sherri Papini is disgusting. She's honestly a disgusting human being. Because let's say you not only traumatized your children, 1.
Keith.
You not only traumatized your husband, 2. You not only stole £30,000 from the government.
Yeah, because they gave it to you to help you and
for
you didn't deserve
therapy, which you do need, but not for this. And not only did you do all of that, but you also caused paranoia to an already a minor, like what's it called, a minority group.
Yeah, the Mexicans.
You caused a lot of racism and outrage towards a group of people because you concocted a story where you made them villains. Yeah. And that story never happened. So she's disgusting on all fronts. I can't believe she only served 18 months. That actually makes my blood boil.
That's mad.
Like, she's an awful human being, genuinely.
Do you think she got away because of the psychiatric evaluation? Was there one done? Did they say that she was unwell mentally? I mean, surely she is unwell mentally.
I don't care how unwell she is mentally, if I'm being completely honest. I don't care. With cases like Sabina and Ursula, then I care.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you know, folie deux, psychosis, like that makes a lot of sense to me. But you went as far as to plan it. She had a prepaid phone. She told her ex-boyfriend to get a prepaid phone.
Wow.
She had it in her mind to target Mexican people, Mexican women. She had it in her mind to concoct this dumbass plan, all to just serve 18. She should not be a member of society. Imagine if we're walking around and right next to you is a person who targeted a minority, a group.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it happens.
And traumatized her kids, and her kids were so distraught when she didn't pick them up from daycare. It was so sad because they were young. They were like, I think under 5 and under 5. And they were so sad that their mom didn't come and pick them up.
Can you imagine the abandonment issues that they would have?
Can you imagine growing up?
That they have now.
Yeah.
Imagine getting one of them two on the podcast.
That would be crazy.
I don't mean that in an insensitive manner.
No,
I mean,
that would
what
be
must
crazy.
it have been like?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, something that is much more harmless and great to listen to is your content.
Thank you so much.
So plug your content and tell everyone where they can find you.
I will. So you can find me on TikTok at Nora's Discoveries. And you can also find me on Spotify, which will be linked on my TikTok account. I hate plugging myself.
It will also be linked in the comments and everywhere else. And I'll share everything around.
Thank you.
Nora, this has been an excellent podcast.
It's been amazing.
I loved it.
Honestly, it's been amazing.
It was worth the crazy drive down.
Thank you so much for driving down. And thank
You're
you for having me on. Thank you.
All right. Well,
awesome.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe, and all the usual. And we'll see you out in the next one.
Bye. Oh my God, that was sick.